So the image record, I guess hash image get the show and show, right? Now hypothesis testing really to show fairly straightforward, right? So if you could only quick walk when your hypothesis is screening up. So usually the hypothesis is that it suggests the mean is equal to 60 or the mean is not equal to 60. That's your hypothesis. Right? Now mean Emerson Emerson got for each. Now hypothesis testing technique research in statistics, they screw the yellow whether a claim that is made is consistent with the data obtained. So they screw the tunnel that Danny Mihal is Jansen, I guess there's a I study 50% of the time. Now the relation to wall Mihal car. This is data hooks I do. So rather than freeze data like it continue to Mihal and then come out the test bank. Now what's that study of 50% of the time, right? Or whatever, right? So you have a hypothesis test. Now what we did the hypothesis test is either hypothesis or good and you have a null hypothesis. So state the null hypothesis. So that means if the null hypothesis is true, then we accept the claim. And we have said that we definitely need that. But the null hypothesis, if we have the alternative hypothesis, which is the complete opposite, then we reject the null hypothesis. We never accept the alternative. So we pretty much do this way. We lock into create an alternative hypothesis. You either accept the null hypothesis or you reject it. So you have to do right? That's very important. As soon as I agree with it, you don't say we accept the alternative hypothesis. No, we reject. So one over in the head hypothesis mock, for example, p is equal to 0.4. Mock to 0.4 and say, well then, can we go to the interval, we should go over model array, or we should go over the test in mass array. What does it change? Janti Sheila? Sheila. Right, so this is going to structure, this is chapters are money into noble baller, like so try to see over here and see that. Right? Now the least we got to the question there, we need to go over mod interval for 95% confidence interval for the question in the lead. So Marta, for example, 0.4 within that interval, then we accept the null hypothesis. That's a feat. Marta is if you move the extra, the interval, then we reject the null hypothesis. Does that make sense? And that's basically what it's called. Okay? So shouldn't you get null hypothesis? Yeah. Now, so we need to obtain evidence from a sample. So for example, we could conduct a survey of a large number of cars and suppose that we find that 32% of cars are black. Okay? This would suggest that the claim is wrong. Oh, sorry, because I'm on head side, so come to this end. If someone says that 40% of the cars in Ireland are black, common sense tells us that this is wrong. But how do we prove it? Right? Now, hardly locals. So more than that now, right? 40%. Right? So we need to obtain evidence from a sample. So for example, if we conduct a survey of a large number of cars and suppose that we find that 32% of the cars are black. So this would suggest that the claim is wrong. But does it prove it? Or has a very unlikely event just occurred? So what this claim still being correct? Okay? Now hope that's a survey you know or real opinion and find that there's 42% of the cars are black and yellow. Okay? But just that one-off sample could be wrong. You can see? Could be below 32. Hopla, we have on the mountain and survey any and could be above 40%. So at least we have to come up with a solution to prove it. So we need a systematic way of deciding whether or not to reject the claim. So either we accept it or we reject it. Okay? Now, this is where hypothesis testing comes in. So a method of hypothesis testing is very precise, and the steps outlined below must be followed. So how to handle a claim in this shot, right? So these steps are outlined as they apply to the types of hypothesis testing on our course. At the more advanced level, other options and steps exist. Then you beat the ball in the steps are how state, one day to row. It's mind-boggling stuff, right? Like the film say I know how I state, you really need to study it, really might get the outlet take a little. Okay, now, so that's the job here. So state the hypothesis, take 0. So going on case more to case of state hypothesis when to say H0 equals or mean equals you get or P equals 0.4. Okay, so the null hypothesis H0 is that there is nothing wrong, null equals nothing but the claim. So for example, if the claim is that the population proportion is 0.4 to 40%, then we write that the population proportion is 0.4, so P equals 0.4. Now, the way hypothesis works, unless we have sufficiently convincing evidence to the contrary, we do not reject the null hypothesis. Basically, if we're within the interval, we do not reject the null hypothesis, we accept the null hypothesis. Okay? Now, so we do not challenge the claim. It is important to note that this is the same as saying that we accept. That this is not the same as we accept the claim. Now, they shouldn't really clarify. So either you do not reject or you reject always. Okay? Just need to clarify. I know we strictly accept the null hypothesis, but you cannot accept the null hypothesis. That means you're 100% sure that it works. But we just don't reject it. So Costa, I was just in court case. I used to be next question more. What's Jin being going here? Has been found? Guilty or not guilty. But it is quite easy to put him up off in court case because but he's found there was insufficient evidence to suggest that he was guilty. That still doesn't prove that he to process which year OJ Simpson. Why is he going with OJ Simpson? Right. Now he was found not guilty. But and then you're almost 100% sure who was his answer. But just that he got away with it. You know, like if we gave the chance. So he just wasn't found guilty. That doesn't mean that he wasn't guilty. If you're found not guilty, doesn't mean you're not that he wasn't guilty, right? So the interrupted class, right? Now, so this is similar to criminal or to actually speaking court cases where a defendant may be found not guilty. This is not the same as saying that he or she is innocent. Merely that the charge has not been proved. Okay? Easy what and try not to entirely right. Okay. Now, identify the alternative hypothesis. So the alternative hypothesis in this case is P is not equal to 0.4. So it's either going to be equal to 40% or it's not equal to 40%. Okay? So the alternative hypothesis, H1 also written as HA, is the hypothesis we accept if we have enough evidence to reject the null hypothesis. And of course the alternative hypothesis will always be that of the null hypothesis is wrong. So for example, if H0 is P equals 0.4, then H1 is P equals not equal to 0.4. So it's going not. Now on other courses there are different possible forms of alternative hypothesis. You don't have to just ignore us and continue for that, right? Now obtain a sample statistic. So shouldn't you go to height in the height sample of the set. So identify the sample statistic, i.e. the sample proportion P hat. Okay, so Muhammad then you could P hat the shot. Okay. Now, one important aspect of hypothesis testing is deciding the level of significance. Okay, so short, what do you short that? So a level sample set. So sheets and sheets is so it's a level sample set. Okay, so LEIBHEIL. Sample set S you put the N TIS RCH. Okay, S you put the N TIS RCH. So a level sample set. Right. Now, so one important aspect of hypothesis is to decide the level of significance. Now, how unusual a result must be before we say that the claim is wrong. So a 5% level of significance, so in level sample set, means that the result relies amongst 5% of most unlikely results. So we will reject the null hypothesis and accept the alternative hypothesis. Otherwise, we do not reject the null hypothesis. Okay, so just like Shinavidi. So in this section, we look only at the special case of hypothesis testing, i.e., where we are testing a claim about a population proportion. The level of significance is 5%. So that means really that the got to be a set score of 1.96, because Caibidil 1.96s. Now lock within your 5% level of significance. Mark this is the graph, or the just normal distribution, right? So that's what we call the critical regions. So the critical region is up, this is the critical region is up. Now if we want a 5% level of significance, that means the critical region is going to be 2.5% rotation, that is 2.5% rotation. Now that means the 95% will be part of our body. Does that make sense? Okay? So it's kind of the opposite done. That's why you use 95% level confident that this occurs. Then a 5% level of significance is 95% confident. That's basically it. Okay? Now, so okay, now as we know from section 40.1, approximately 95% of the sample proportion will lie within E equals 1 over square root n of the population proportion. So within the interval P minus E and P plus E, hence 5% of sample proportion will lie outside this interval. So just as what my they're going to lie outside the interval 2.5% out of 2.5%. Okay? Now, we can use this knowledge to make our decision about whether or not to reject the null hypothesis. And then you get the journal as we make a decision. Do we accept or do we reject the null hypothesis? Not accept. We fail to reject. And we reject or we fail to reject. Okay? So, having calculated the population proportion P minus E and P plus E, we can now make our decision. Now, if P hat lies within the interval, the sample proportion lies within the margin of error of the population proportion, then we do not reject the null hypothesis. So in this case, we just say that the result is not safe. Not to get through the all is open list and null hypothesis we can get it or reject. You can see this reason, no? Okay, now what the P hat ni small na P minus E or the P hat ni small na P minus E is P plus E, that means that's within the critical region. Then therefore the null hypothesis and we reject the null hypothesis and accept the alternative hypothesis. So in this case we can say that the result is significant. The region of values of P hat for which we reject the null hypothesis is called the critical region, and so on. Which legal okay listen. Now it is to go over all this and shin, but it is no hash in the you'll see it fairly falling back into place. Now right, so Tashbridge off the sample of the Heenishan. So an engineering company states in its literature that only 20% of its products experience a problem within the first 5 years of use. To investigate this claim, you sample 400 of their products and find that 98 of them have experienced a problem within the first 5 years of use. Okay, so what is the hypothesis? On what basis will you reject or not reject the hypothesis? Calculate. So when you calculate the margin of error, using the margin of error approximation, makes the part journal calculate the sample proportion of failures within the first 5 years, and then can you conclude that the company's claim is true or false, and give a reason. Right, so we need to freeze just to die up into the maha. Okay, now so fairly straightforward. Now third said that 20% of the products only fail within the first 5 years. So raise your hypothesis as P equals 20%, which is 0.2. What's the alternative hypothesis? H1 that P is not equal to 0.2. Okay, so evidence all, we will reject the hypothesis if the sample proportion lies outside the margin of error of the stated proportion. So what is a then extra araje, then sample araje, then higrin a ayuki. If it does not lie outside the margin of error, we will not reject the null or the hypothesis. Now, for this, we calculate the margin of error, so it's the pressure E equals 1 over square root n. So we raise to n cosmic 38, I guess due to 5%. The sample proportion of failures, P hat equals 98 over 400, which is 24.5%. So we will reject the hypothesis if P hat lies outside the interval. So mark this an interval, it's 20% minus 5%, I guess 20% plus 5%. So it was 24.5 out of 15 equals 25. 10. So therefore, as p hat is equal to 24.5%, does not lie outside the interval, then we cannot reject the hypothesis. So níl out there YouTube, agus we sinna. So Theo thus we have not enough your evidence, finish ogrin leshan hypothesis of use. Okay? Right, so Tashmi that catch over the heat. Okay?
So what do you provide? Accept it, but you're just...
No, you're not accepting anything, we just don't reject it. So can you go ni either to go la yulti or níl to go la yulti, and that's it. Okay? Now, my yultin to a lockamit lesh an alternative hypothesis. So we accept the alternative hypothesis. Was in Salia, right? Especially from a Hanuvinian divigatus, but right. Okay, right. Now, so make the question of the heat. Now, to me, Gully trial is she shall jump to do so funny the Kedini. So, we're going to free heat donuts and hopefully be a couple of moments you're going to let your 3 Aljanta and then just clean up on your upper ball. Right, Sheila? Right. So, make the mature. Right. Right, so question here. Right, so election workers for candidate X in an election have confidently predicted that she will gain 45% of the first preference votes and so top the poll. To test this claim, the workers of another candidate Y take a random sample of 1,024 voters. This sample suggests that support for candidate X is at 42%. So we reached state the null hypothesis and the alternative hypothesis. Okay, so raise tash me job here. So Jane null hypothesis. So kiss you heen, part you heen. Okay, so the null hypothesis in H0 because J Higlin right when you should. Then you get if P equals Cara quick von gate. Yeah. So to P Cosmla Cara quick von gate, which the Cosmla Yamni punch Cara quick. Okay, so shin the candidate is correct, so right goes a Ceacht, so therefore shin the null hypothesis. So the alternative hypothesis H heen to P Nialcha Cosmla 45%. In this case, Nialcha Cosmla 0.45. Was an okay again now at least he's screwing 45%, so that just looks weird. Okay, so just determine that P is not equal to 0.45 because 45% Cosmla 0.45. So these are right. So now could say yeah well. Right. So it's in part of the heat. Now part of the door. On what basis should they possibly be rejected or not rejected? Right. So raised it we're going to screw Shanshan. So yenimage and hypothesis I yield to. So genter and hypothesis H if the IP nearly Augustin che let's see model H if the IP TI H if the IP IT if the IS. Let's go if it done. Habitus. Right. Anyway, so gender and habitus. Right. So let's try with the hypothesis. Right. So we got a screen chat. So we reject Martin sample proportion. So gender and hypothesis I yield to. What the sample and then okay. Now Louis T with me and margin of error GV organization for the margin of error and etrif well RGB negative level RG I think Eh? Yeah, level average. L after M, H after L. Okay? Average DP. So, these are so gentle an hypothesis are yield to mata sample and then and lead to meet the level average DP. Okay? Now, mata shall layer to stay. Nyamajab de ya. Obviously, Nyamajab de yield to. Which is okay. Right, so sin part of the dot. So, rest is forward. Right, part of the tree. Now, there's because we're not part of the there's on what basis should the hypothesis be rejected or not rejected? So, reach gentle an hypothesis yield to mata sample and then lead to meet the level average of the P. Agus níl muid abaltaí a dúiltú mata siad na lí ar a tíú is tí. Okay? So these just scream sin so níl muid abalta é a dúiltú má tá an sample an daine má tá sample an daine na lí ar an tíú is tí. Then level average P. Okay? So, sin part of the dot. Now, part of the tree. Okay, so J chaimid obrumana. So chaimid an level average obruma. So then level average codjumla. Okay, so reach the singular codjumla hin is gan pre carni n. Escape mile agus visa art and then just question the Charlie Hospital. I shoot the Nyamni punch 3, Nyamni punch Nyamni, 3 a hin a nui. Kakuji quiget jackal. Okay. Oh, Bumiliska. Right, so it's attention, a hundred. Whoops. So he is going to try, da, so reach Adam and Chen Guji Nyamni punch Nyamni 3 a hin a dog quick. Why you should it? Must got it. Okay, so Nyamni punch Nyamni 3 hin a dog quick. Now, so J test when you know, so J to me go lock it, so to me go lock it, cara quick from gate. Luigi, J token in shot, so shen 3 punchy hin a dog quick from gate. So shen cosma 3 punchy hin a dog a quick from gate. So minus 3 punchy hin a dog quick from gate. I guess in canala cara quick from gate, moje 3 punchy hin a dog quick from gate. So raise the shen cosmla, so just you know, can't you go on my card? So cara quick minus 3 punchy hin a dog quick. I guess you to cara hin. Punch art to short to quick. I guess you can only send you to carry art punch keen dog quick from gate. Okay. Now, marking to the question to test this claim, the workers of another candidate and support for candidate is at 42%. Now, what the carry off off and gate at the next option, wall carry dog at the reverse. So, Mayal go all. Go wall. Okay. On sample dinner, the carried off and gate Nalui guarantee with state. Then level average ní dúiltar an ní diúltar an hypothesis. Okay, so ní diúltar an hypothesis. Was an okay? Agus sin ceiste hín deanta. Was an okay? Right. Try again. Oh, to faster than sin. Now, do you think the election workers for candidate Y have evidence? Sinné ceiste give a reason claim made by the election workers for candidate X give a reason, so sinné deanta sin. So because tá se na lí tú state an airide ní go leor evidence, ní go leor evidence on leis an rud a diúltar. Was an okay? Okay, so we fail to reject. Right, so ceiste over the dot. So the manufacturers of a new treatment claim that it cures hiccups within 20 seconds for 90% of the people. An independent body decides to check this claim. A new treatment is tested on a random sample of 4,000 hiccup sufferers and cures the hiccups of 3,540 of these. Right, state the hypothesis that should be made by the independent company. Okay. So, then you be getting go what an hypothesis. Excellent. P equals 0.9. Why here, Kira? Okay, because they're claiming that 90% that they can cure 90%. So shouldn't the hypothesis? Now the null hypothesis that is P is not equal to 0.9. Now, because they may come from population proportion, B into Kuruma, the chef this in since the head section a left, then the question nu must you Ceacht in even certain neri, why Danish P because it was population that's come from population really, that was fine. But we very interestingly on there's a random sample of the population proportion, so we could mean because it didn't mean of a sample proportion, so we could you for the set. So one of what to say how you this rubber we could call you marking. So we definition in a couple of examples in the premium chapters only give you the idea of how it all works. Listen okay. It's a rubber mis fossil and a couple of pepper screw the agent. Okay, right. So these on what basis should the independent body rejector not reject the hypothesis? Near fair in agree with these. So just because she's right or BJ high chin, it's right kernel. Okay. So sin páirte hín, páirte dá mar I gcearna. Okay, so páirte 3. Determine if the independent body should have concern about the claim made by the manufacturers. So these just go free the process leak. So these touch me off the lie while added. Okay, so reason level arge codma heen is can pre harni Caibidil. This question shine the calculator. I should nyamni punch nyamni heen equate art. Okay. So 1.58%. Okay, so reached to me call usilman so to me call a knee half engaged minus 1.58 go on scale. Ní slú na P, ní slú na codum la, so these dial lay screw, so it's the population proportion at the revert. Okay? Ní slú na codum la, ní half engaged plus 1.58%. So reached you to art mo art punche cehead a dá engaged. Ní slú na codum la P, ní slú na codum la, ní ha heed punche quick art engaged. Okay? Now, obviously, came within your sample, a sample proportion of Bruma. So, gene percentage that they need that were cured. So raised task is called P hat Codumla. Now due to P hat, so there was cures to hiccups of 3,540. So 3,000 quick caraha is can caravila. So variation the percentage that the NUV actually cured. So 3,540 around your caravila. I guess you to 0.885. So the race is in Codumla, art mo art punch a quick from gate. Now, while art mo art punch a quick from gate and the Louise and Etrif, the client got a valid contract in Germany. 88.4, 88.5, so therefore it lies within there. We say you go to 88 and 85, but you know this is which yeah, so reached to the goal of Frederick Kern and Shaw. Okay, so reached my alcohol sample and then they arc more arc punchy quick. So just swap out 42 when you arc more punchy quick, then need Julter and hypothesis. Okay, so hence they should not worry about the company's claim. Was it okay? That's your grand. Right, I'm Jerega G3. So lobby group for three-legged aliens. What? States that 60% of the population supports the view that the aliens should be treated as privileged citizens. Now, in all fairness, when I think America, they called us aliens. Now, we're not three-legged aliens, but we're a hand in your America that are not American are called aliens. Ruskishan. Yeah. So, a lobby group for three-legged aliens states that 6% of the population supports the view that the aliens should be treated as privileged citizens. To test the claim, you conduct a survey. You sample 2,000 people at random and obtain a proportion of 62.4% in support of the claim. So, what should your hypothesis be? So, raised H0. So, it shouldn't be any that supports the view that they should be classified. So raised to P, Codumla, Nyamni Punche She. So to H Heen, P not equal to Nyamni Punche She. And then obviously, part of it on what basis did you reject same statement raised? Was it okay? So, we're again it. Matashat Muita Netrif we reject. The null hypothesis Matashat Stita Netrif we rut, right? And then Darna Partition, Lawa Laraje. Codumla Heen, as you can square root, fit in your horsey kisture. Yeah, be the dinny. How's the shin Codumla? Nyamni punch, Nyamni da, Nyamni a da, a care. So reached equivalent to 2.24%. Okay, so we're to last the Shaska from gate minus da punch da care. And you still in a Codumla P, and you still in a Codumla as the Shaska from gate plus da punch da care from gate. So reached Shaska minus da punch da care. You to quick a sharp punch a sharp to shape. You slew in a Codumla P, you slew in a Codumla Shaska da punch da a care. Now, the claim of the accuracy that's 62.4%. Now, the reached so enter cash on short image gole. So Kaifar and Heptus are you to mer goal Givion Shaska da punch a care from gate na lui den TV screech come to concerna den sample and den risk yeah sample and den na lui tiw mwy den lai wal araj P. Okay, I guess Shane. So the Shinjan's good, so he got Kistibility, so Jershanshan as the same proportion of to lies outside then will reject the null hypothesis and accept alternative new schemage alternative. Now when you it is Kisti carry into forest here Kisti quiggy go shade to the canal gobber backwards. So Kaisi Robux meter shan quiggy go shade. Alright, so try as you jant when you more when you decade in. Okay, and then clean image 40.5 inch and that sort of stuff. Okay.